In this video, we're going to be looking at the quotient of two functions, so we'll be combining them together. And the reason that we separated this out to a different video is because when you do combine functions by dividing, sometimes you have domain issues. So we're going to have to make sure that when we combine these functions that we don't have any issues in the domain, and if we do, we need to point them out. Okay, so let's look at this first one. It says find g divided by h of -6. Okay, so g divided by h, this is basically saying this, g of -6 divided by h of -6. Okay. However, what we're going to do first is figure out what g of x divided by h of x is, because I want to know what I have to worry about with my domain. Okay, so when I do that, I put the g of x function on top, which is x minus 7. And then I put the h of x function on bottom, which is x minus 2 times x plus 3. Okay, so we have some domain issues because remember that the any values variable that make the denominator equal to 0 are not in the domain. Okay, so what values would make this equal to 0? Well, all we have to do is set those two terms equal to 0 and solve them. And that will give us two values that we have to throw out of our domain. So this one, we move the 2 over, it becomes x equals 2. And this is x equals -3. So what are the values that are not in the domain? These. So if they would have asked us to find one of these numbers in this function, it would have been undefined. Okay, but they didn't. They asked us to find -6. So now that we've found the domain issues, let's go ahead and find the answer to this. So I'm just going to plug in a -6 everywhere I see an x in this function. So it would be -6 minus 7 divided by -6 minus 2 times -6 plus 3. Okay, and that will be -13 on top. And then on bottom, let's see, what is this? -8. And then a -3. Okay, so that's -13 over 24. So the value of g divided by h of -6 is 13 over 24. Okay, here's our next one. So this time we're asked to find g divided by h of 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the values not in the domain. So let's find g of x divided by h of x. Instead of plugging in the 2 directly, I'm going to find the function first, and then I'll plug in the 2. So I do this to find issues with my domain. So g of x goes on top. That is x plus 1 times x minus 3. And then on bottom, we have -9x plus 8. Okay, so to determine what your problems are in the domain, then you set the bottom equal to 0. So -9x plus 8 equals 0. So that gives us -9x equals -8 when I move this 8 over. And then when I divide both sides by -9, the negatives cancel, but it can't be reduced any further. So x is equal to 8 over 9. That is the one value that you can't have in the domain. Okay. All right. Now that we have the function right here, I can just plug in a 2 to it. So I'm going to do g of 2 divided by h of 2. So I'm basically plugging in a 2 in everywhere I see x right here. So that will be 2 plus 1. And then 2 minus 3, and then -9 times 2 plus 8. Okay, so on the top, you get a 3 times, is this -1? And then what is this? -18 plus 8 is -10. So you get -3 over -10, because this makes it negative, right? And then you get 3 over 10 because the negatives cancel. So this g of h of 2, g divided by h of 2, is 3 over 10. Okay, for our last problem on this, we're asked to find f divided by g of -4. So the first thing I'm going to do is find f divided by g of x, right? Okay, so that is f of x divided by g of x. Okay, so what is f of x? See, that is x plus 5 times x plus 5. And then, which by the way is the same as x plus 5 squared. If you want to simplify it, you don't have to. and then g of x is x minus 8. Okay, so to find the one problem in the domain, we need to set this term right here equal to 0. X minus 8 equals 0. We add 8 to both sides. So x equals 8 is the one problem in our domain. That's one value that we can't put in the domain. Okay. Now to find f divided by g of negative 4. So I'm just going to plug a negative 4 into everywhere I see an x here. Okay, so that will be, let me write this, f of negative 4 over g of negative 4 is equal to negative 4 plus 5 times negative 4 plus 5 divided by negative 4 minus 8. Okay, so that will be equal to, let's see, both of these are 1, right? 5 minus 4 is 1, 5 minus 4 is 1. So the top is just 1. 1 times 1 is 1. And then the bottom is negative 12. So our answer is negative 1 over 12. So f divided by g of negative 4 is negative 1 over 12. And that's it.